What's going on, everybody? Here we are. We are back for Week 8 NFL picks. We got back on track last week, going 12-3. Out of 7 weeks this season, we've had 5 really good weeks, 2 really bad weeks. So take out weeks 5 and 6. We're doing really, really good. Got back on track last week at 12-3. Let's keep that going into Week 8. Starting off with a tough one. Thursday Night Football, Vikings at the Chargers. Boy, this is a hard one to start out with. I think this is the game I'm wrestling with most this week. Truthfully, there is a lot of big spreads this week, so not honestly a ton of tough decisions, but this is definitely one of them. So far for the Vikings, Wentz has been pretty bad. I mean, he's been making a lot of bad throws. He went out and threw the ball a ton last week. Those 2 interceptions were really killer, though. On offense, the Vikings as well have struggled running the ball. I think their offensive line has been the biggest reason for that. Both, letting Wentz get under pressure, throwing the ball, and then making it difficult to run as well. However, for the other side of that, the Chargers have really struggled to pressure the quarterback and stop the run. So both of these teams' weaknesses are going to be kind of clashing here in this Thursday night matchup, and I'm going to be interested to see which of these teams steps up in that regard. I could see the Vikings having some offensive success tonight if Wentz is kind of able to sit back in the pocket, let those weapons get open. I mean, the Vikings have some serious weapons on offense. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson came alive a little bit last week. So if he's got time in the pocket, you'd have to really be a bad quarterback to not be able to get the ball to those guys at least a few times. So I could see some success from the Vikings offense tonight. Going over to the Chargers, Herbert's really struggled the last few weeks. And, Joe Alt has been out since week 4. That's been really difficult for this offensive line. They've been under a ton of pressure. Hampton is obviously out, so it's been harder for the Chargers to run the ball. Overall, the offensive struggles have stemmed from the offensive line. Now, this week, it does look like Joe Alt is returning, so I think that's actually a huge X factor in this game. He's going to be coming back in at left tackle. When Slater went down, he moved from right to left at the start of the season. So he's going to be coming back in at left tackle this week against a Vikings pass rush that is pretty good. So I do think it's really important to have him back this week. Vikings pressure the quarterback really well. That's where Herbert's really struggled. Vikings don't stop the run all that well. That's where the Chargers have also struggled on offense, running the ball so far this year. So I do think the Vikings match up really well with the Chargers in this one. Chargers are at home. They've got 3 points. I think this is kind of a coin flip of a game. I'm going to be going with the Chargers in this one. I trust Justin Herbert. If Andrew Van Ginkel was out there for the Vikings and they could attack from both edges, I would pick the Vikings in this game. But ultimately, I just think that the Vikings are not going to be able to do quite enough on defense to make up for Wentz and those offensive struggles. So we are picking the Chargers in this one. I don't feel all that great about it. I think this is going to be a really, really close game. Chargers have struggled as of late, really only beating the Dolphins in the last few weeks. So I'm not feeling great about it, but we are going with the Chargers in this Thursday night battle. Next up, we got the Dolphins at the Falcons. And this one's, a little bit easier. I think most of these games are going to be much easier to analyze than that first one, that Thursday night matchup between Chargers and Vikings. But in this one, starting with the Dolphins, they just look bad all around. You can see the graphic on the screen. We got Quinn Ewers. He came in for Tua at the end of the game last week. Now, that game was out of reach for the Dolphins, so there's no point really having Tua out there anymore. But I do think the Dolphins are seeing what they've got with Ewers there. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua keeps this up over the next few weeks, if they bench him even. On that same note, I don't think McDaniels has much more of a career in Miami. I think they're going to fire him soon. I think that's deserved. He hasn't been good at bringing this team together, not just on the football field, but it seems like they've got a barrage of locker room problems as well. And that stems from the top. That stems with your leader, your head coach, and your quarterback. So I would not be surprised to see changes made at those two roles in the organization here soon. For the Falcons, they've been up and down really all this season. I think the one really big thing for them is their defense, specifically their pass rush, has been much better this season. I don't think Michael Penix has looked all that great. He can't really do anything other than just kind of the big shot throws, which works with Drake London, but you got to be able to get the ball to those guys over the middle of the field as well. Bijan might be the best back in football. He looks absolutely insane. That man can dodge anyone's tackles. I think the Falcons win an easy one here. The Dolphins are just looking horrible. They're going to have another meltdown here on Sunday, so we're going with the Falcons. Next up, we got the Jets at the Bengals, and the Jets, very similarly to the Dolphins, are a team that is absolutely reeling at this point in the season. They benched Justin Fields and brought in Tyrod Taylor last week, and I think that's kind of a sideways move. I don't think Taylor brings anything to this offense that Justin Fields didn't. They're different quarterbacks. Fields, is obviously very athletic, can run the football, and Tyrod Taylor is a little bit older, used to be more mobile. He showed some flashes of it last week, though, but more of kind of sit in the pocket type of guy. The thing that worries me for the Jets is getting any passing game going. With no Garrett Wilson, with the quality of quarterback play that they've had, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for the Jets to win any games this season. I'm not saying that they're going defeated, but it's going to be really, really, really tough for them to win any games struggling to throw the ball as much as they have been. Jets are going to lean on the run. The Bengals haven't been great against it, but ultimately I just don't think they're going to be able to put up very many points against a Bengals team, specifically on offense, that's looked a lot better over the past couple of weeks. I think we were all a little bit surprised by that Flacco trade, specifically intra-division. I wasn't so surprised about the Bengals side of that, more the Browns. But anyways, Flacco has made the Bengals look much better over the last couple of weeks, hitting Jamar Chase with like 5,000 targets last week. So, I mean, they've had a little bit of success in the last couple of weeks, and I think that continues against the Jets, who are just a really struggling football team. So we're picking the Bengals in this one. Next up, we got the Browns at the Patriots. Starting with the Patriots, the offensive line this season has been great. Everyone wants to talk about Drake May, but it stems from the trenches. And the O-line has looked really great, and Will Campbell has looked really, really great. You could argue he's looking like one of the better young tackles in the NFL so far this season, and he's got his work cut out for him on Sunday, going up against Myles Garrett. Can he shut him down? I shouldn't even say shut him down because you can't shut down Garrett, but can he slow him down just enough for the Patriots offense to make some plays? The Patriots are absolutely red hot. Their offense is playing good. Drake May is playing good football. They keep throwing up statistics during the broadcasts of Drake May versus Tom Brady over this 5-game stretch and all this. Obviously, he's not Tom Brady, but he's playing at an elite level right now. For the Browns, they are really struggling offensively. Their defense is still pretty good, especially up front, but they're really struggling offensively. They don't seem to have a great identity. I know they want to run the football and play good defense, but even running the football hasn't been overly successful for them. I think Quinshon Judkins has had one game around or over 100 yards. That's just off the top of my head. I don't know for sure, but you can't win the game with a quarterback who's throwing the ball 45 times for 200 yards and a running back who can't surpass 100 yards. So ultimately, I think the Patriots are the better team in this one. They're red hot. We're not going to bet against a team that's really hot. I am looking forward to the trench battle with Campbell and Garrett this week. But even if Campbell is getting dominated all day, I still think the Patriots win this one. Patriots taking this game. Next up, we got the Giants at the Eagles in a rematch from that game 2 weeks ago. The Giants came out and got the win last time they played. And I'll just say this. If you guys have ever played football, it is really difficult to beat a team twice in one season, especially twice in this short of a time frame. So not a lot of adjustments probably to be made in this short time frame. I'm sure a thing or two will happen, but ultimately these teams are just going to come out swinging on Sunday. I'm excited to watch this game. The Giants, Dart, they've got that swagger going right now with that run game between Dart and Scatabo. They're a lot of fun to watch. I think they definitely need to continue that recipe in order to win games. They had that absolute meltdown against the Broncos in the fourth quarter last week. Almost as bad as the Cardinals meltdown, except the Giants just looked like crap. They didn't hand the win. You could say they handed it to them, actually. But the Giants need to continue to keep the gas pedal down, run the ball with Scat and Dart, take those shot plays when they're open. That's when that team looks much better because they do have a pretty good defense. For the Eagles, their passing game finally got going a little bit last week. Hurts looked pretty good. He had a bunch of great completions to Devonta Smith, a few to A.J. Brown as well. So I think that definitely is a new element to this Eagles offense we haven't seen so far this season. Saquon Barkley still is yet to break out. I kind of thought he was going to last week. We didn't exactly see it. But ultimately, I do think the Eagles are the better football team here. I don't think they're as good as people say. Or I guess now people are starting to come back to earth on the Eagles. I've been saying it ever since they were 4-0 that, there's no pictures on the scorecard, but these guys really haven't looked all that great this season. Giants have some swagger. I think Eagles are the better football team, so we will be picking them on Sunday. Next up, we got the Bills at the Panthers. And starting with the Bills, they've definitely struggled as of late. They've been inconsistent. Additionally, like to the Eagles, I said the Bills when they were 4-0 that, these guys are a great team, but I don't think they're quite top tier right now. They're showing their struggles specifically at that receiver position for the Bills on offense. Keon Coleman has not had a very good season. Shakir is what he is. Elijah Moore is just kind of a gadget guy. So I do really think they need that number one receiver to elevate them to the next level. I'd love to see the Bills trade for someone at the trade deadline. I think they're a candidate of a team to make a big move, but we just don't see those things all that often. I'd love to see it. We really don't see them that often. For the Bills, they need to get back to running the ball. First, when James Cook is leading this offense, they're staying balanced. They look like a good football team against a Panthers defense that has been susceptible to the run. They've looked better in the last couple of weeks against the run, but they've shown this season they can be susceptible against it. So I'd love to see James Cook get going in this one, allow for Josh Allen to work a little bit more rather than just sitting back in the pocket while those edge rushers just have that green light to come after him. So I'm looking for that out of the Bills. For the Panthers, you can see on the screen we got that Andy Dalton graphic. He will be starting on Sunday as Bryce Young is out. I don't think that's actually a huge factor in this one, specifically because of what the Panthers' identity has been as of late. A lot of 12 personnel, a lot of check down plays, obviously running the ball well. And I think they're going to continue that game script here on Sunday. And honestly, Andy Dalton might do better in that role than Bryce Young. He plays smart. He doesn't throw the ball downfield all that well, but I don't think they're really going to ask him to do that on Sunday. I think these teams are actually closer than people think as a whole. On Sunday, I don't know if we're going to see that with the Andy Dalton versus Josh Allen matchup. Josh Allen is obviously 10 times better than Andy Dalton is at this point in his career, and we're going to see that. That's why I'm picking the Bills on Sunday. But these teams are closer than people think. So I'm nervous for the Bills. Obviously, I'm locking that pick in. I'm sure they're going to win. But I am nervous we could see something funny happen because that's kind of been the story for the Bills and the Panthers all season long. Next up, we got the Bears at the Ravens. You can see the fun little graphic there, Bears-Ravens. Looks like Lamar Jackson will be returning to play this Sunday. That's huge news for the Ravens, who are 1-5 and absolutely need to get something going now. For the Bears, they've looked a lot better over this 3-game streak that they've had going. Their run game in particular has looked really good. They've been blitzing the crap out of opposing offenses, so I think that's been really huge. And Caleb has looked better over the last 3 weeks because they haven't asked him to be an absolute flamethrower. They've said, go out, manage this game, make big-time throws when we ask it of you, don't make mistakes, get first downs. He's not a flamethrower, he's a game manager, and he's done that well over the last few weeks with this balanced offense. Now in this one, they're going up against the Ravens defense that's been pretty dang bad this season, ranking dead last in PFF run grade. So I do expect the Bears to continue with that strategy, staying balanced on the ground, allowing Caleb to work in those kind of unique situations where they need him to step up. So I think there's definitely something to be said about the Ravens defense getting exposed in this one. However, I don't think the Bears defense is all that great either, and the Ravens are going to have something packaged up here. 1-5, Lamar Jackson just returning. It's all cards on the table for the Ravens in this one. They need a win. Their backs against the wall. I do think they are going to get one. The line is like 6.5 points Ravens favored. I think that's a terrible line. I would be willing to if I'd be willing to take the Bears side of that spread all day long. However, I think the Ravens pull out a tight one with some Lamar or Derrick Henry, big play at the end, use that star power, get the win. Ravens getting their second win on the season against the Bears. Now, in this one, we got the 49ers at the Texans. And first of all, I cannot believe that the Texans are favored in this one. 49ers are coming off a big Sunday Night Football win. They're getting healthier. They're looking pretty good so far this season. And the Texans have a variety of struggles that have held them back so far this season. Uh, Beginning with the Texans, their defense is the strength of this team. It looks pretty dang good. Their secondary looks really good. The edge rushers with Anderson and Daniil Hunter looks absolutely lethal. Probably the best edge rushing duo in the league. And they looked pretty good last week against Seattle and Darnold. They got that they got that sack and safety against Darnold last week. So I do think there are some strengths coming from this Texans defense. They've got some momentum going for them. Stingley is an absolute dog in that secondary. For the Texans, though, they're struggling because of this offensive line. Very specifically, that is the reason this team is getting held back this season. They struggle to run the football. CJ Stroud is running for his life on every single pass attempt, and you're going to have a lot of trouble on offense if you're just getting blown up at the line of scrimmage. So for the Texans, that's definitely a difficult thing for them. Nico Collins also suffered a concussion, and it looks like he won't be playing in this one. I think that is a huge factor. They're extremely thin behind him at receiver. They've got Christian Kirk, Noel. They've got a couple other young guys on that team that might step up in this one, but Nico Collins is the heart and soul of this offense, so it's going to make it pretty tough for them. Ultimately, I just think the 49ers are getting healthier. They're a better football team. I think they're going to be able to stay balanced against this Texans defense that is really, really good. 49ers defense has started to figure it out just a little bit. I think the Niners get it done in this one. I'm surprised they're underdogs. We will be picking them to get the upset against the Texans this one, although it really doesn't even feel like we're picking a dog. So 49ers get the win in this one, and I think they do it pretty easily, especially without Nico Collins on the field for the Texans. Next up, we got the Buccaneers at the Saints. It's the 5-2 Buccaneers on the road playing the 1-6 Saints. And I know that doesn't sound like a close game, but boy, I wrestled with this one. I really do think there is a case for the Saints in this one. They've been a lot better the last few weeks. Rattler is up and down. He struggled last week, although it was pretty rough conditions in Chicago, weather-wise, pretty windy. He's been kind of hit or miss, but the Saints have been competitive when he is on. I think he's going to have his work cut out for him this week, going up against a Todd Bowles-led defense that can be really tough to read. They send a lot of pressure. I think that's tough for opposing quarterbacks. For the Buccaneers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, all out. Emeka Egbuka, very limited last week. We could see it on the field. He didn't have that burst. He didn't have that separation, that top-end speed. I don't expect him to be 100% in this one, so that definitely worries me. Pretty thin behind him as well at receiver. They've got, obviously, Tez Johnson, Cade Otton, Cameron Johnson, Sterling Shepard, but none of those guys are really all that great. So I think the Buccaneers' injuries are really going to hold them back this week. Baker also really struggled against the Lions. He just looked jacked up. I mean, he was missing throws high, missing throws deep. It was a big game. He was excited. The 5-1 Bucs going up against the Lions. He just looked jacked up, a little overexcited, and didn't play all that well. I think he will bounce back this week against the Saints. And these injuries for the Bucs really make me want to take the Saints. However, even just looking at the guys remaining, I still think the Bucs have just enough talent on that offense to keep up with the Saints offense and a much better Buccaneers defense than Saints D. I think Otton, Rashad White have big games in this one. I would love to see Egbuka go out and have another big game. I just think he's kind of limited in his athleticism right now. So we will be picking the Bucs. I'm not mad at all against a Saints pick in this one where I think they're 3.5 or 4.5 point underdogs depending on what site you're on. So, not a lot of people are going to be picking the Saints in this one. I think they were only 3% picked on the ESPN pick'em deal. So if you want to steal a game, pick the Saints in this one or the Charger, or excuse me, the Vikings on Thursday night. But I'm going to ride with the Bucs in this one. I think they will get the win. I'm not in a position in my pick'em group where I need to be scrambling, making picks to make up on people. We're 2 picks off the lead right now, so we're doing just fine. We're gonna go with the Bucs. It's the team I think is gonna win, but this is gonna be a close one. Next up, we got the Cowboys at the Broncos. And Cowboys coming off a blowout win against the Commanders. They looked really good. The offense continues to look really good. CeeDee Lamb back on the field. All good things for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's playing out of his mind. I think they have a lot of momentum. For the Broncos, they're coming off that crazy comeback versus the Giants. That fourth quarter comeback, they were getting absolutely blown out to that point in the game, and then Bo Nix just kind of went wild in that fourth quarter. So the Broncos are a little up and down. They're a little hard to read right now. And in this one, I'm worried about that Cowboys offensive line that has struggled to pass protect going up against this Broncos D line that is one of the best pass rushing crews in the NFL. I think it's going to be really difficult to protect. Dak Prescott has still been great under pressure, but he's going to be under a lot of it here on Sunday. Broncos have struggled to run the ball. Cowboys' run defense is really bad. So ultimately, I think the Broncos get a little bit more balanced offensively. I think the Cowboys struggle to pass protect, and the Broncos get the win in a close one. But don't be surprised to see Javonte Williams' revenge game. The Cowboys go out and have a big offensive performance against a really strong Broncos defense. Picking the Broncos in this one, another really tough to decide game though. Next up, we got the Packers at the Steelers. Oh, we're backwards on the graphics. But anyways, there's the Packers at the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers' revenge game here in this one. You know, he's played really well over the last few weeks. I think the Steelers have something going with that passing game with him. Steelers defense continues to struggle a little bit. They should be pretty good on paper, but they're definitely struggling. That pass rush is really the only strength for them. So, I mean, the Steelers are a little bit tough to read right now as well. They've got a pretty good record, but I don't know if this team is as good as it says. Rodgers is playing good ball. Does he keep it up on Sunday night against the Packers? We will see. For the Packers, coming off that big last second win against, or I shouldn't necessarily say last second, but kind of last few minutes win against the Cardinals. Big comeback victory. It looked awful sketchy for me and us fellow Packer fans for quite some time. Ultimately, though, I think the Packers are a better football team. I think this defense, specifically this pass rush, is going to cause fits for Aaron Rodgers. He gets the ball out quick, but this offensive line is struggling, and that's kind of why he does. Ultimately, though, I do think this Packers defense is going to make it really difficult for the Steelers to move the ball. And I think the Packers get some more offensive success with Jacobs being less limited in this game, get a little bit more balanced, and kind of just maybe have a little more ball control than the Steelers and win this game. All right, going back to the Sunday afternoon game, we've got the Colts and the Titans, and you can see the Indiana Jones graphic up there. He's a new man in Indianapolis. He's been playing kind of out of his mind all season. Colts looked really, really good last week against the Chargers. They just ran away with that one. I mean, these guys continue to just be a very balanced, very reliable football team. They don't have negative plays, and with a huge, great offensive line that Jonathan Taylor can run behind, they're a hard team to stop. I mean, you don't look at this Colts offense and see a bunch of weapons and think we can't stop these guys. You know, Michael Pittman's a good receiver. Alec Pierce is a good receiver. Josh Downs is a good receiver. Warren has been a great asset for them on offense. But you don't look at them and think elite offense, especially with Indiana Jones behind the helm. But this offensive line has been so good all season, and it's made this offense actually pretty elite statistically. The defense as well for the Colts has been holding up pretty good. They've been a hard football team to beat. I think they're definitely one of the best in the NFL at this point in the season. For the Titans, continue to struggle. It's been the same story all year long for the Titans. Cam Ward not playing well behind an offensive line that's really, really struggling. They're going up against a pretty tough defense against the Colts in this one. I just don't see the Titans having a bunch of success against a really strong football team when they haven't had much against anybody all season. We're going with the Colts in this one. I think it's going to be a pretty easy victory and maybe a wide margin of victory for the Colts in this one as well. Lastly, we got Monday Night Football, Commanders at the Chiefs. And story here in this one, Jaden Daniels out, Mariota in. You can see it there on the screen. When Mariota's been asked to play so far this season, he hasn't been all that bad. He's been okay, but he's not all that great. He's not Jaden Daniels. We'll just leave it at that. I think the big thing, though, for the Commanders this week is McLaurin and Deebo Samuel both returning, and that's going to be huge for them. They're pretty limited behind them at receiver, so when those guys are out, they're very one-dimensional, kind of bad receivers, not a super strong run game. It makes it hard for them to move the ball. We kind of saw that last week. For the Chiefs, they've started getting really hot recently. You could argue they're the hardest team to beat in the NFL today. I know they're 4-3, but the Chiefs have looked really, really strong over the last couple of weeks. That offense got going last week with Rashee Rice, looked so much better, and the defense is starting to look a lot better as well, specifically that secondary living up to their name. I think the Chiefs keep it rolling in this one. They're red hot. I don't see the Commanders really even keeping it close in this one, to be honest with you. I think the Chiefs going to run away with this one in Arrowhead on Monday night. These primetime games at home that the Chiefs always seem to get scheduled for them for some reason, always seem to go their way. So anyways, there is the picks for this week. We got 6 teams on bye, so obviously not as many games this week, but let's hope to keep the streak running. Want to get back on track and get to the top of the leaderboard. So anyways, hope you guys follow the picks. Good luck this week. See you next time.